see. So sorry about that. Can you hear me now? Like the Verizon ad. I apologize. I was trying to adjust the audio. No, I was trying to adjust the video because YouTube allows you to stream vertically or horizontally. And I think it pushes the live out to different audiences based on how you stream. And while I make my videos that are on my channel, most of them are horizontal, aside from my shorts, which haven't made a short in a long time. But most of the lives that I have done, at least these lives, the lunchtime lives that we started doing a few weeks ago, they've all been vertical. So I want to keep that. So I wanted to just, keep that the same. Rumi said the audio is back. Thank you so much for letting me know, because I would just keep prattling on and not know that you couldn't hear me. So thank you so much. My Cozy Little Library is on. Hi. And Brown Girl Reading is on. Hi, Dee Dee. Dee Dee, thank you so much for being here. The question is, it could be casual, or the question could be very loaded. I don't know if your question is loaded. My response would be, to answer your question, how am I doing? I'm here. I am here. I'm taking these days moment by moment, because every time I think about how I am, I think that I'm not going to be fine. I've had some very difficult moments. I've had some very difficult to process thoughts, and I am trying to keep myself from going to that place. So I am here and we're talking. Books are what I talk about. So I find that talking about the books helps me in this moment. Some of the books make me go to places where I am not prepared to go. So I can't read all the books or talk about all the books. But this is the book that I started reading yesterday. And after I left you guys yesterday afternoon, I had intended to go back to reading, but I didn't. I stayed up very late last night, early this morning, and I thought about reading. I couldn't bring myself to it. So yeah, this is the book that I showed you yesterday. This is Full Bloom by Francesca Saratella, and I started reading it in the sprint yesterday, and I read the first 2 chapters and I liked it. It's a little bit about scents and smells and the transportive medium that smells could be. And I liked where the book started off. So I will read it today in the sprint. I will continue. Hopefully the experience is good so I can continue it, because I would like to finish some things. Quite a few of the books that I started recently, I just have not been able to go back to them for one reason or another. So yeah, take your time. Yeah, I am trying. Even though you guys are my friends, this is still a public platform. So I don't want to say anything that later I will feel differently about sharing publicly. But I will tell you, because I have shared this publicly. So if you have watched previous lives, like a few weeks ago, or earlier, it wasn't this week, last week, earlier, since I've been back from Jamaica, if you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen my updates. that I lost my mother. Lost my mother 2 weeks ago. And it is a very difficult path, because I didn't know that I was going to lose her. Earlier this year, my dad had gotten sick and he had a stroke, and within 4 or 5 months, he had regained maybe 95% of his capabilities. He was back to where he had been. He is still not completely better. And in the weeks since my mom's illness, he's lost some of the gains that he had. And because it's just been a very difficult, stressful time. But when my mom got ill, I think our experience with my dad made us feel like it was going to be a similar experience. And so I allowed myself to think and to believe and to be lulled into a false sense of security that she was going to be fine. And so I didn't need to rush home. I didn't need to rush to Jamaica because she was getting the care that she needed and she was going to be fine. And she wasn't. So a big part of my journey, a big part of my pain is in the loss of time with my mom, because if I had known how things were going to be, I would have made a different choice. And I don't know how I'm going to get past that thought. I don't know if I will get past that thought. So I'm trying not to think. I'm trying not to think about that. So I'm thinking about books and talking about books, and here to have conversations with you guys. So if you guys are fans of the BookTube Prize, I would love to hear your thoughts on the BookTube Prize announcement. I still haven't watched the video. The video premiered on Saturday, I think it was. And so I saw the posts. On Instagram, so I know which books won the BookTube Prize, which books were awarded the BookTube Prize, the winner as well as the two runner-ups in both categories. But I haven't made my video yet because I do want to make a video where I discuss my experience reading the books, and I'm just not able to make that video right yet. So I want to save some of my thoughts for that video whenever I get around to making it. But yeah, Brown Girl Reading says the book that won had to win, and it did, and she's thrilled. As am I. So yeah, spoiler alert. That is one of the best books that I have read so far this year. I read some really great books. Looking at my spreadsheet, if you guys have been here sometime, you may know I have a spreadsheet where I record all the books that I read, and I'm holding this up. Can you see it? No, we can't see it. It's okay. I have an Excel spreadsheet where I record the books that I read in the year, and so I adapt it every year so I can keep track of my reading as the years go by. And it's very helpful for me to be able to search books that I think I read, but I can't remember why, or I can't remember something, like some detail about the book, and I want to be reminded of. So I read James earlier this year. Before the BookTube Prize, I read James in, was it in February? I'm looking. I read it in April. And it wasn't on the spreadsheet, it was in my reading journal. In my reading journal, because I also keep track of my books on paper. So in my reading journal, when I read James, I said, I gave my little statement, best book. Best book. Yeah. And that hasn't changed. I've read a lot of really great books. I also read The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, which was the inspiration for the characters in James by Percival Everett. But Percival Everett made such a departure from The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. It was a necessary departure, and I loved everything about reading that book. So I read the other books, and James was, I thought, the clear winner. So Rumi asks, where did I buy the books, if I did, and how much did they cost? Which books? Which books are you asking about? The books that are behind me? A lot of the books that I have, a lot of the new books that I have been gifted to me by publishers. But a lot of the books that I've had over the years, I purchased from lots of different places. Some of them were secondhand books. Some of them were books that I got for cheap. And quite a few of them are books that I bought full price, because I wanted to. Yeah, a lot of the new books that I have, though, have been gifted to me by publishers, and that is why I am so intent on trying to keep up with some kind of reading pace, because the publishers send me the books to share with you guys. They don't send them to me for me. Yeah, they want to hear my review, but they want to hear my review as I share it with you. So I must read the books to tell you guys about the books. So I'm gonna keep working on whittling down the stack of books that the publishers have sent me that are still piled up unread. So in this today I'm gonna be reading something. I'm gonna continue the book that I started yesterday, and I may even start something else. My cozy little library says, seeing your reading journal makes me want to revive mine. You definitely should. What I always get inspired by, but I don't completely adapt, is when I see people who have what is it called? Commonplace books. Commonplace books where they write down quotes and things that are memorable from books, novels, quotes, lines from poetry in just one book. I would do that, except then my notebook would probably not last me for the year, and then I would have multiple books for the year moving around with, and that can get a little overwhelming. So for now, in my reading journal, I keep track of, so I'm going to show you a little sneak peek, because some of you have been here before, but some of you may not have seen. My reading journal needs a little updating. It can be a lot to keep track of the books in the reading journal, on the spreadsheet, on Goodreads. At the same time, you're also trying to read the books. So this was just a page that I showed you. So I cut out pictures of the books and write a little something about the book that's meaningful to me. Sometimes I'll write a short review. Sometimes I'll write a little summary. Sometimes I will write down something about a character, or sometimes I will have so much to say that I write nothing. because it just feels like there isn't enough space to write down what I really want to say. And so I don't write much at all, because I give myself limited amount of space. I try to put at least 2 books on a page. So like this book, I started reading and then I stopped and I moved on to something else and I started filling in the entry for the next book. And then I felt like I didn't have enough room to write down what I wanted to write down about soil. So I wrote my review on Goodreads, I think, but I didn't actually come back and write in it here. So my reading journal needs updating. It always does. It always does. When I have some time, I will update it. But I use my reading journal really to keep track of, just the fact that I have read the books. I like collecting the pictures of the books. And it helps me also in planning my reading and keeping track of like books that I have received and what my plans are for those books. Like at a glance, I can tell, at a glance, I can tell what a month looked like in bookish terms. So like, this was my April TBR. I listed all the books that I wanted to read and I write down why I want to read them. And then as the month went on, this specific month in April 2025, I started this challenge where I was trying to read like 10 books in 10 days. And or 10 books before the end of the month. I don't think it was 10 days, like 12 or 15 days. I don't remember. But I had to add to the TBR and then keep track of whether or not I meet those goals. And then I'm also listing all the books that have come in, my hauls, and where they come from and what the sources are. So I could capture this for a year. As a graphic, if you guys would be interested, like at the end of the year, I could do that, show you all the books that I brought in during the year, where they came from, and whether or not I've read them. So I think as a video, I will try to make this year. And, sometimes you have all these plans for year-end videos, but the reality of trying to meet all the other goals that you have at the end of the year can get a little overwhelming. So maybe I'll do it early. Even if it's not completely accurate, in terms of me not capturing like a book or two that I read at the end of the year, but capturing the books that I brought into my home, into my space in a year, and approximately how many of them I read. I think that would be interesting to me anyway. Hopefully you like it too. So yeah. Brown Girl Reading says, oh, that's why I don't start writing in my reading journal until I've finished the book. Yeah, you are. It's an excellent point. It's just, sometimes I can't wait. Like sometimes I'm reading the book and I want to start writing down my thoughts right away because I have so much to say even before I'm finished reading the book. And then something else happens. So here's a classic example. This was in January. Okay. So here are 4 books that I read in January. This was Family Lore by Elizabeth Acevedo. I think this was a Runwright Reads Book Club selection. This was The Serviceberry by Robin Wall Kimmerer. I can't see it in this picture. And because I chose to use a different picture where I'm holding the book, not just the book itself. See, I was experimenting with different ways to put up the pictures. And Augusttown, which was, I think this was the Runwright Reads Book Club selection from a previous month that I didn't get to, like sometime last year. This was actually the book club selection, Augusttown by Kai Miller. And it was a reread for me. I'd read it a few times before, but I read it now to discuss with the book club members. And because I had so many discussions about the book and it wasn't a new read, what I wanted to write down was probably different from what I would have written down the first or second time I'd read the book. And so kind of going through my mind and discarding ideas as they came and being very selective about what to write in the journal, I wrote nothing. So I wrote nothing about a book that is a 5-star read for me, a book that I have made several reviews on, a book that would come up on a list of best books for me for the year if I didn't like eliminate it for other reasons, whatever. But I wrote nothing. So it's there in the reading journal. I know I read it. I could tell you all about the book because I've read it, I've discussed it, I've reviewed it, but there's nothing in the reading journal. And then this was The Book Woman of Troublesome Creek, which I also really, really enjoyed. Thought that was a 5-star read. It was my first time reading anything like that, set in the Appalachian Mountains in Kentucky, and about a woman who has this, it's not quite a genetic disorder, but she has this this thing that makes her skin appear blue. And it was my first time reading anything like that, and I learned a lot about that life from this novel, and I loved it. And so I wrote a little something, but I don't need the little something to tell you all the things that I remembered about the book. But yeah, so the reading journal is helpful. I think it's a really great way to track things that are meaningful to you and to be able to just kind of help you to recall things that you may want to remember, whether they are things that you did or plans that you have or reading goals that you have, or things that you want to accomplish. Like, I don't know how that's different from plans, but yeah, like TBRs that you have set for yourself that you're not actively working on, but they're just here, like as as goal markers. One of the things that I try to work on is to read from lots of different places, to visit all these places through books. So I capture states in the United States as well as different regions in the world. So this would be my Caribbean representation. And even when the map doesn't really quite capture all the Caribbean countries, it has the names there, so I can highlight the name if I don't have an outline for the country. Regions, so I do continents and so on. I want to show you I want to show you some of them because I'm not doing very well with some of these challenges. Okay, I'm just being transparent. So far I only have 2 African countries colored in for 2025. I'm actually pretty embarrassed about that because I used to read a lot more. I used to read a lot more literature from Africa. And I don't know what has happened this year. I'm reading a lot of American books, a lot of European books, and not Africa so much, or really at all. So that's something that I need to work on in the fourth quarter. We in the fourth quarter? Yeah, we're in October. That's something that I need to work on. Because even see, this is Europe, right? Europe up here. But it's just a couple of different countries. I have read several books that were set in England or Ireland. I mean, I even did an Irish authors challenge earlier in the year. I didn't need to do that to read books from Ireland because I read a lot of books from Ireland and the UK. Yeah, France. But yeah, not much diversity in my reading this year. Asia is just as pitiful. Yeah. So those are things to be mindful of as I choose the books that I want to read in the fourth quarter. So that's why my reading journal is helpful. Helpful in a lot of ways, just to help me to keep track of some of the things that I say I want to do and to actually do them. So Brown Girl Reading has a world map too. I like that. Rumi's question, how long am I planning to be on live today? I think for another 40 minutes. I think I said I'd be out of here by 2:30. 2:30. That's the plan. I have some assignments that I have given myself that I need to attend to. I know I missed a couple of statements up here. Rumi, Rumi. Sophia, you're funny. Rumi says, should I change my username to Rumi Runwright Reads Fan? um, you're funny. You can. You don't have to. So Rumi, your question, like my favorite and what I like in terms of my books. Yeah. As we get a little closer to the end of the year, I will start working on lists of books that were top reads for the year, recommendations. Because as much as I have read a lot of books that have been set in the United States this year, I've read a lot of different kinds of books. I've read a lot of different kinds of books, and also new this year, and I will capture this in my end of year stats too. I will try to capture this in my end of year stats. This year I've read a lot of fantasy, like books that were set in places that are not real places. And they're not necessarily fantasy like the Court of Thorns and Roses fantasy, fae fiction. I'm just saying places that were made up, like the book that we chose for the Caribathon group read was Passion Tide by Monique Roffey. And while the author is from Trinidad, and a lot of the political situation that she talked about in the book, in the novel, captured events that are real events that are happening in Trinidad as well as other Caribbean countries, Trinidad and Tobago and other Caribbean countries. The author chose to make, she chose to give, I'm sorry, she chose to give the book a fictional setting. She gave it a fictional name and changed some of the, just change some of the things that would make you identify a Caribbean country, and gave it a little bit more of a mashup with other Caribbean experiences. So yeah, even though you'd say you're reading a book that's set in Trinidad, that's only because the author is from Trinidad, but the book itself had a fictional setting. So yeah, that is kind of new in my reading this year, that quite a few of the books that I have read have been set in fictional places, which is fine. It's fine. It's fine. It just means that I can't color anything on my world map or on my regional map. And that's fine, because I'm not doing it to fill in the map. That's not the intent. That's not the objective. The objective is to read widely. And as long as I read widely, then it doesn't matter whether the maps get colored in, although I want to color in the maps. Somebody asked where I'm from. I am right now in New York City, but I am from Jamaica. I lived in Jamaica for my childhood, and I moved to New York when I was in my 20s. So my background is Jamaican. I still go back to Jamaica every now and then. I was there last week, this time. Yeah. Last week, this time exactly, or maybe 5 minutes ago. No, I think exactly, because our plane left a little late. My flight out of Jamaica last Tuesday, was at 12:50, which it is 12:55 Jamaican time right now. So yeah, other questions. Yeah, my cozy little library is also inspired by Dee Dee's reading journal. Dee Dee, I wouldn't mind seeing your reading journal very soon. Can you share some pictures on your stories? Would love that. We're putting you on the spot, Brown Girl Reading. Hi, Kazim. Brown Girl Reading says, I actually have another small notebook where I keep track of notes while I'm reading. Then once I'm finished, I can write my final notes easier. So I have done that, but not with a notebook. Usually I have like note paper, like post-it notes in my books. Sometimes, not all the time. Not all the time. But my cozy little library likes that idea. So one for sort of stream of consciousness note taking, and then one for the final summary. I like that. Hi Baroon. Hi Faisal. My name is Runwright Reads. In answer to your question, my name is Runwright Reads. That's my name. My first name is Karen. My my channel name is Runwright Reads. If you follow me on Instagram or on TikTok, you'll find me at Karen_Runwright Reads, just to put those two things together. But it is Runwright Reads over here. Runwright is my social identity. And where's my house? Okay, so you're not gonna know that. That we will not talk about. So I think we're gonna get a reading sprint in. So we're gonna start reading in 3 or 2 minutes. I'm going to set, I think, a 20-minute timer so that I can read a couple more chapters and tell you a little bit more about the book, because after a certain point I can't tell you more about the book. So this is the book that I am reading. It is Full Bloom by Francesca Ceritella. The publishers were kind enough to give me this book a few weeks ago. The book was published in August. I don't think I got my copy before publication date. So generally, if I get a book before the publication date, I am trying to do at least a first impression before the publication. But I got this after it was first published. So I'm a little late, but I'm trying to I'm trying to do what I said I would do, which is tell you guys about it. So we're gonna set a 20-minute timer. Let me know if you're gonna be reading along with me, what you're reading. I would love to hear that. I'm gonna be reading this novel. If you are curious, that is the picture of the author. The book is set in New York City, and the author is the daughter of the best-selling author Lisa Scottoline, who is, like I said, a best-selling author. And the daughter, Francesca Ceritella, has written books with her mother, or columns with her mother. I think I have read something that was a collaboration from them. So I don't think I'm new to this author. And in this one, we're reading about a woman whose life is changed forever by a mysterious perfume. The book is all about smells and scents. And we met her in the first couple of chapters that I read yesterday and chatted with you a little bit about it. She's a 34-year-old woman who is newly single. She and her previous partner broke up, and she is facing some of that transitional challenge where someone is in their 30s and they're thinking about what life is going to be like in the future and what they need to do now in order to make sure that they can still have the future that they want, even if the relationship that they spent and invested some of their time in didn't work out. So 20-minute timer starting now. Let me know what you're reading, and we'll chat at 2:20. 20 minutes. Yes, Rumi, go watch. Come on back. We'll be back at 2:20 to talk about the books. Okay. Ah, my cozy little library is reading professionally. I love it. So inspiring. Enjoy. Happy reading. Thank you so much. Yikes. Oh no! next. Just about 2 minutes left on the reading sprint. Okay, so it is time. 20 minutes have elapsed. I read about 20 pages in my book. I need to read a little faster. I read exactly 20 pages. I was at page 30 before. 20 minutes later, I'm at page 50. I need to read faster. I would have liked to have read a little further. But I'll tell you what I read, so we might need to do this again. To tell you about the book without telling you too much about the book. So I'll start by saying it is a almost 400-page novel. Acknowledgements end on page 395. So the first 50 pages of the book, they're just setting up the characters. Oh, Rumi 24, Runwright reads girly. I love it. Thank you so much. So our main character, her name is Iris, and she is working in a architectural firm. She's a lighting designer. So it seems that she has a degree in architecture. She has a master's degree in architecture, but she's not working as an architect. She's working as a lighting person. Lighting designer, I think is what they said. Yep, lighting designer. She hasn't quite found her place. She hasn't quite found her voice, and it is very obvious in all the ways. So just now, the chapter that I just finished reading, it's her birthday. It's her 35th birthday. And oh, my cozy little library is reading about that name. Freud. Is that the correct pronunciation? Freudian slip? Yep, okay. I want to say, no, I'm not going to say that. Yeah. Please share what you were reading. I like reading about that person. Yeah, so Iris has not found her voice, and it is something that is very relatable for women who were raised in a certain time and place, raised to be demure, with kind of the expectation that if you do what you're supposed to do, you will get what you're supposed to get eventually. And you don't need to be assertive. You certainly shouldn't be aggressive. But if you do the right thing, people will recognize your worth and give you what you're supposed to have. And you understand why or how some women were raised with that ideology. But you also see that it doesn't really get them what they want very quickly. Because in order for you to get what you're supposed to get, if you're not going to get it yourself, you have to wait for someone to recognize that you deserve it and find the way to give it to you. So in the chapter 5, we see her at her job, and she's working in a very toxic environment. She is surrounded by a lot of young male workers. Not male as in post, a lot of young men. There are at least 2 other men in her group. One is a coworker and the other is her boss, which is why I didn't think him at first. But yeah, at her desk, like in her job, her day-to-day, moment-by-moment experience at work, she's surrounded by a lot of young men who behave like they're in a frat house. And there is one slightly older man who tries to regulate them a little bit, but it's a toxic environment for her. She doesn't participate, but they're always trying to like pull her into conversation that is embarrassing. But yeah, and she's not going to say anything. Like, she's not going to complain. She's not going to report anyone, um, because she wants to just be cool. So um, we see her in this chapter make a request to her supervisor or her boss that she wants to talk about advancement. She wants to, possibly be in line for promotion and a raise, and what she's like in meetings and so on. Lots of ways that the author is showing us that this young woman hasn't yet found her voice to advocate for herself. And it's really interesting reading, even if it's a little, it makes you unhappy to read it, because you know that this is someone's experience. Even if Iris is a fictional character, you know that this is what a lot of people, a lot of women face. The other chapter that I read before focused more on her relationship with her ex. And we know that he's an ex. The first line of the synopsis says she's reeling from a breakup. So that's not a spoiler. What is hard to read is how their relationship ended, because we are reading about them being together, living together. Her boyfriend's plan to propose, and that it's not a surprise. So she is participating in the planning for this big surprise. And like, they design her engagement ring together. They use her family heirloom setting. She knows that the ring exists. She hasn't quite seen the finished product, but she knows that it's there. She and her boyfriend are living together, and all the plans have been made for them to get engaged, but the days and the weeks and the months are just going by, and there's been no actual question being asked. And then we see the moment, or the scene where the breakup actually happens, and it is very, very, very emotional for her. And it, if you're a very empathetic reader, you could see how that would be very hard for someone to read. Yeah. What was so funny in the chapter? Yeah. When I was laughing when I was reading. So the scenes, this is something that I thought right away when I started reading the book yesterday. The writing is excellent. The writing is excellent. It is the phrasing, the scenes that the author portrays, and how she writes about them. The characters are just very well drawn. Like, you feel like you could see them. They may be difficult for you to read if you are triggered by things that they are doing or things that they're experiencing. But that's because the writing is just so good. It's very vivid. It's very, it's just very rich. So couple of things that I may have chuckled about. Iris's experience when she's at work. A couple of the jokes, they're not harassing. They're just in poor taste. And actually, what I was reading reminded me of something that I witnessed yesterday, which is I was walking outside. I went to do some errands, and I was walking back and forth from my car to this building, and I was making a couple of trips because I was taking things back and forth, and I passed some men, 4 Caribbean men, talking, and one of them was a little older than the others. Most of them are probably in their maybe late 30s, early 40s, and then one's a little older, maybe in his like mid 50s, early 60s. And he was the one kind of controlling the conversation and talking about women and how men have to lie when women ask how they look in things, or women ask their husbands or boyfriends or whatever, they ask their significant other for advice or feedback on things, and they don't want they don't want the real response. They want to hear what they want to hear. So basically they want to be lied to if the truth would hurt. And it was almost as though I was invisible to these men, because they could see me. They just didn't care that I could hear them very clearly. So it was interesting. It was interesting to me because I know what they're saying. I know what they're saying. I know that happens. But what I was reading reminded me of some of that from yesterday, and it made me chuckle. But in the actual reading, some things that Iris does, some things that she does, they're funny, and they're also kind of sad. But we're also getting a little bit of a tie back to the first chapter, which had not been revisited. But yeah, there were some really funny things, and I don't want to tell you too much. I want you to read the book. I want you to read the book. So yeah, I will read some more, and tomorrow we will continue. For now, I have to go. For now, I kind of have to go. But yeah, Iris is 35. It's her birthday. She brought cupcakes to work, and her boss gave her a candle, but nobody else that she is working with has acknowledged her. And as a matter of fact, she brought cakes. She's put her birthday in the calendar, and you could still tell that the people around her don't value her, because she has not yet come into her own, where she is advocating for herself to be recognized by these groups that she's a part of. So she's supposed to leave work and go hang out with her best friends, and they cancel on her, like each one thinking that the other person is going to be there and all of that. And it's a little funny if you're not invested emotionally, but it's very sad if you're Iris. So that's where we're gonna leave it for today. I'm gonna leave it here for today. I'm at page 50. I will come back maybe tomorrow and read a little more. Tomorrow, if I come on live tomorrow, it will be a little earlier, because I have to pick up my daughter early tomorrow. My daughter will be with me for the afternoon. So if I come on live, it will be early morning instead of mid-afternoon. But thank you so much for being here. I said I was gonna journal. I didn't. I read. So we'll leave some of the journaling. Maybe I'll do a little update later, and I'll be able to show you some things. And otherwise, I'll read. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for giving me a place where I can just talk about things for a little while. I appreciate you guys so much. So tomorrow I'm gonna say 11 a.m. I'm gonna come on at 11 a.m. If I come on at 11 a.m., then I'll be here for about an hour. If I come on later, then it may be less than an hour, but I'm gonna try for 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time tomorrow, Wednesday. Yeah. So hope to see you then. If you watch this as a playback, thank you so much for being here. If you are live, thank you so much for being here. Please like the live before you go. Really appreciate your engagement with the video, because then it gets pushed out, it gets recommended to other people, and more people will know that we're on here almost every day, every weekday. I'm not here on the weekends. We're here almost every weekday, chatting books, chatting experiences, and just sharing. So thank you so much for being here. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Until then, happy reading, happy viewing, happy, whatever you do, enjoy. Bye.